Hey there everyone, my name's Andrew and this is Canadian Starships Mission Debrief. In this mission debrief, I'll be looking at a retrospect on the 1677 scale Nova class project, which just wrapped up. And now this project was done for the Trekyards Model Building Contest, which is now concluded and the results are out. So I just want to take you through my thoughts on building the project, what I think about the kit, what I thought about the contest, entering that, and just getting a bit of a debrief on the whole process. So first I want to talk about my overall feelings about the final product of the model. I'm really happy with the way that it turned out for the most part. There are a few things that I would love to have had the chance to do a little bit differently for a bit of a different result. Now, the first thing on the model that I would have liked to have had the time to do was spend at least a week or two more simply on the refinement of the kit itself. So specifically on the area where the pylons meet the body. So on this section, I was able to get the top really good, but the bottom really isn't quite complete the way that I would like to see that. So if I was doing this again, I would definitely spend more time working on the refinement of the pylons. Also, I didn't really get to finish the refinement necessarily where the nacelles join the pylons. There's quite a bit of a gap on that. There's a little bit of detail too that I noticed after the fact that's not part of the kit itself. So if I was to do the kit again, I would look to see if I could add that detail, and specifically it's the panel lines on the saucer and on the secondary hull section that aren't represented on this kit. So I'm not sure how I would have added those, whether I would have inscribed them into the resin of the kit or whether I would represent that through paint, or whether I would do that through custom decals for it. But that is something that is missing on this build, and I would love to have added on that just to give it that more realistic look as to what we saw in the episode. There's a few ways that I would approach this kit differently, building it in the future. First of all, in the piece that I used for the bottom section, I had to take a mold of it and recast it because of issues that I had with the original piece. Now, the part that I brought out of the mold, took out of the mold, I should probably have sanded down that underside section so that it could mate a little bit better with the top section. There was quite a gap in there, quite a bit of filler of putty that I had to put in, so it increased the size of the edge on the ship by a fair margin. I would like to see that profile go down a bit. So next time I build the kit, if I build it again, what I would do is make sure that I ground down or sanded down the interior of that bottom section so that it would fit a little bit more flush with the top section. Something else I would do is I would move to a thinner type of wiring from the start. The wiring I was using, a little bit big for the size of the ship. So I'm not sure that I would necessarily move to a magnet or a wrapping wire for everything in the ship like I had to do in the warp engines in order to get them to go together properly. But I would definitely go with a thinner gauged wiring just to help keep the wiring mess under control, because it was quite a job to get all of the wiring for the lighting in and to get all the parts put together. One of the issues that you run into with all that wiring is it does block some of the lighting inside the kit. One of the other things that I would do differently, and this is more of a issue with the amount of time that I had to put into it because it had a deadline to be done for the competition, I would burn in the lighting a little bit longer. Just a little bit of a thing you may not have noticed in the final video if you happen to have seen that. But I'm not sure if it'll show up well here, but you've got relatively good lighting inside the saucer section on the starboard side. But if I turn this around, the lighting on the port side isn't quite as good. So for some reason, I'm thinking that the LED strip that is in here is no longer functioning, or the battery is just not powerful enough to light all of the lighting inside. Now, I will put this on the bench power supply to test it out at some point just to see if that's the issue. But that is something that was really a luxury I didn't have with the amount of time that I had to do it. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to guarantee that all of the lighting is going to last indefinitely because I didn't get the chance to run all of the lighting for a long extended period of time before it was permanently installed in the model. So that is definitely something else I would do differently. One of the other things I would definitely do differently is, again, type of wire. The type of wire that I would install into the nacelle pylons when I cast them. I used a thin gauge ribbon wire that actually came as part of a lighting kit for another project that I'm not going to be using, but it was very difficult to get into the mold I made for the pylons. So in that case, I would definitely move over to the wrapping wire that is much stiffer and will allow me to get more of the wire through. It was very hard to get much wire on either end and made connecting the pylon wiring to the leads in the body and connecting the lighting in the nacelles themselves to those wires very difficult, just because there was only a small amount of wire coming out of the pylons to connect to. So that made working with it very tricky, and I had to be really careful that I didn't damage those wires at all because I had nothing to work with there extra. So those are a few things that I would do differently if I was to do this kit again. One other thing I would probably do differently is I would remove some of the lighting masks for the windows part way through and replace them with fresh masks. Some of the windows, especially on the engineering section, where I had to do extra paint, extra putty, all of that kind of thing, were buried quite deep and they were very hard to demask, and I didn't get the cleanest of demask because of all the different layers that are there. The layers are really nice because they form a bit of a window ledge, but it would have been advantageous to me to pull those masks earlier and put fresh ones on so that they weren't buried under so many layers of paint and putty. Moving on to the Trekyards competition. This is the first model competition that I have done a build for. And when I started out the competition, I was trying to think a little bit about what might be an interesting subject to submit to the competition. And I was trying to think, well, what would be of interest to the judges? So that's why I decided to go with the resin kit, something that not a lot of people would necessarily do. In the competition, there were several variations of the ambassador class, which I was kind of surprised about. There were a few space stations, but I knew that there probably wouldn't be anything quite like the Nova class kit that I had. So that's why I chose it. However, the choice of the resin garage kit Nova class project was not necessarily the best decision for the competition. I didn't realize the number of problems I would run into with this particular kit, and most of my time on this project was taken up in the in the refinement portion of the fixing problems with the kit portion, in the assembly and seam work and all of that kind of stuff. So all of the time, most of the time I spent on this project in the competition was spent on that front end. So I had very little time to work on painting detail, on the decals, on the final things to do with the project. So with a contest like this, I probably would not, I'd be more careful in what kind of kit I chose. I've got to say that it was my first contest entering, but in my opinion, it was a very well run and administrated contest. Basically, we were expected to post every week our update. We were assigned a number based on when we signed up for the project. When we signed up for the project, we had to show a picture of the uncompleted kit, the fresh kit, and the date, something that shows the date and the time, and that because we had to start with a non-started kit. So that's how we started the project, and then every week we were to post a project update. Whether we had done any work on it or not, we needed to do a weekly post to show the progress. And it was really interesting to see the progress of all the different projects as time went on. And you could also tell who was dropping out of the contest because they were no longer posting those weekly updates. Then when the time came for the submission of the project, everything was clearly laid out how we needed to submit it. Everything was clearly defined, well communicated. So I've got to compliment the Trekyards Model Building Showcase Facebook page group for how well they managed that competition. Now, the results came in. I was watching. I was really nervous as I was watching. I had no idea how the competition would turn out. I thought I might have a good chance of placing, but I had no idea what the judges were looking for. And as it turns out, I didn't place. And that's okay. That's fine. And I will show you some pictures of the third, second, and first place winners. Now, the first place winner, I was not surprised at all that this model won. And I'll show that to you in a little bit. And as far as second and third, really, it would have been difficult probably for the judges to come up with a decision because there were some really good builds. And they were looking at some criteria for their judging that probably made it even more difficult. They were looking at creative, unique. They were looking for things that were different. So under those criteria, something that's kind of exactly what you would expect to see on screen wouldn't have fared necessarily as well, which is kind of what I was going for. But let me get into the winners. In third place, we had Dinah Arzapolo. And this was the SS Mod Dib Champion Warp Racer. It was a kit pash. It was very uniquely painted and with a very unique color scheme. And definitely was something that would catch the eye. In second place, we had from Ross Wardley, the USS Terrapin, which is a kit bash of a JJ Verse style ship. I'm not sure what the donor kits were, but it was a kit bash to kind of create a whole new looking ship. And you'll see those pictures on the screen. And in first place was Adrian De Cristofaro with the USS/NCX Icarus from Star Trek Renegades, and that was a resin kit. Now, I had this one pegged as a kit that would probably do very well. It was very well made, very well finished. The only thing that I was kind of wondering about is how the subject matter would be handled by the judges, because it's sort of a Star Trek thing, and it's sort of been taken out of the Star Trek universe. So, and this is definitely a Star Trek build, so I wasn't quite sure how they would handle the subject matter, but hands down, it was a very well done ship. And the builder there needs to be very proud of the work that they've done with that. Had a little bit of a conversation with him as well about his kit, and he did something that I didn't do. And it definitely paid off very well for him. He used a resin kit that was very well designed and made. So he didn't have any of those issues that I was struggling with the whole way through, and it definitely paid off for him. So congratulations to all the winners. Very well done. And as I said before, I was really impressed with the way that this contest was managed and handled. So thank you to the Trekyards Model Building Showcase Facebook page for putting on this contest. And I will hopefully be able to participate in the contest in the future. One of the things that the contest did for me as a model builder was it pushed me to finish the project. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and it's really difficult for me to let go of a stage of building the project if I'm not 100% happy with it. That's why it's taking such a long time to finish the Enterprise E project, because there is just so much that I want to be able to do with it there. I want to make sure that it is as good as I can do it. But I had to come to a point with the refining stage of that project where I had to basically let it go. George Lucas has said that movies are never finished, they are simply abandoned, and that's kind of how I feel about the model process here. It pushed me to finish the project, and it pushed me to make decisions about what I would kind of die over with this project, because there was only a limited amount of time to get the project done, and I had to be able to submit a finished project at the end. So it really made me work hard to push towards completing the project on time, and I completed the project with only 3 hours left in the competition. So really under the wire on that. So this is the time where I'm going to give you a bit of a review on the kit. I always think that it's better to review the kit once the process of building it is done, because you have a much better understanding of what actually goes into building the project when you've gone through the process. So this was the Alliance. I've got the box here. This is the Alliance 1677 scale Nova class resin hollow clear cast kit. And the Nova class is always been one of my favorite ships, one of my favorite designs. I've got 3 really designs of ships that I've loved over the time. When I was younger and the Next Generation was first airing on TV, I always loved the Nebula class, especially the Sutherland from the episode where Data takes command of it. So that was always one of my favorites growing up. But then as new ships were introduced, the Nova class was one of my favorites, and then the other of my favorites, which I do have on the shelf and I'm looking forward to building at some point, is an Akira class. So definitely the subject matter is something that I always wanted to have and wanted to build. And I wanted to have a decent size kit and one that I could light. There is another kit that's smaller and solid resin. That doesn't interest me. I'm definitely interested in lighting the kit. So it is the kit that's available, so that is something that's going for it. However, I do have to say that there are some issues with the kit. First of all, if you are lighting the kit, getting wiring through those pylons is going to be very difficult. That's why I recast the pylons with wires built in. Definitely made my job easier. With the rest of the kit, there are issues with fit. Nothing fits together properly, and you really do have to make a lot of modifications in order to make things fit. Pylons don't fit into the main body. Nacelles don't fit onto the pylons. The nacelles don't fit together. The nacelles have a lot of rough casting on them. So there are a lot of casting issues with it. The worst casting issue I had with it was the bottom section of the main hull. And I will show you a picture that shows you just how badly warped that part was. This kit is probably suffering from, as Dr. Pulaski said in the one episode, replica of fading. So copies of copies of copies. The mold that this was cast from was probably near the end of its age, and there were definitely quality issues with that. You can tell that the kit was probably originally a solid kit and has been kind of gouged out to create that hollow kit. You can really tell how rough it is on the inside of the kit, which probably lends to some of the fit issues too that I had. Also, when I was assembling the two halves of the kit, they didn't line up properly at all. So the fit on parts on this whole kit are way off. The bottom section was warped to an incredible degree, to the point where I couldn't use the part. I ended up taking a mold of it myself, recasting it, and laying it down flat to hard cure so that it would mate better with that top section. So definitely some major issues with the kit. Now, on the customer service side with the company that provides this, this was purchased from the Federation Models website. I didn't have a great experience with that either. So I did contact the company to let them know the problems I was having with the kit. And the response that I got back from the company, they were much more concerned with the way that their company appeared on my YouTube videos when I was sharing the problems I had with the kit than actually helping me out with it or being apologetic about the issues I was having. So I did not have a good experience with that. Also, the kit came with the wrong decals. The decal sheet that came with the kit was an old decal sheet from when this kit was owned by a different company. And there were some important decals that were missing. And I contacted the company. Now, they did ship out a replacement for that, but I'm concerned about their quality control because they are shipping out parts that are badly warped and kits that also contain the wrong decal sheets. That's just something that you would think that they would deal with before they ship a kit out. And at $80 US, that's a lot to spend on a small kit to have that many issues. So when it comes to the quality of the kit on a score of 1 to 5, I would have to give it a 3. The parts that are detailed are well detailed, but you can definitely tell that it must be an old mold that they're being cast from. They're not really paying attention to the quality of the castings that are coming out of these molds. They're just shipping them out and making the money off of them. When it comes to the customer service side of things, again, I would have to give it a 3 out of 5 for customer service. When it came to contacting them about that warped part, I did not have a good experience. It was a bit of a better experience when I did contact them about the decals. But again, there's concern there that they are shipping out the wrong things on an $80 kit. So my final thoughts on this project. It was a lot of work. Would I recommend this kit, this project? Here's the thing. If you love the Nova class, then really, unless you're going to 3D print, and I'm not convinced that 3D printing is really there yet to the level that I would want it to be to make kits out of it. You see a lot of layer printing lines on kits that are made through 3D printing. And to get good quality, it's still really expensive. So if you really love the Nova class and you want your own Nova class, well, one, you can either purchase the project that I did. You can email me at Andrew@CanadianStarships.com and we can talk about that, or buy the kit, but just know you need to be willing to put the work into it. You have to be willing to solve the problems, to deal with the issues of the kit. And if you're willing to put the time, the effort, you can come out with a really nice finished product. Now, I've seen some images of the variation kit on the Nova class, the Rhode Island, and it looks like it is a better engineered, better produced kit. So that is also an option, the Rhode Island version from the last episode of Voyager. So would I recommend the kit? I would recommend the kit if you really want a Nova class and you are really willing to put the time and the energy into it. Simply because it will, if you're willing to put the time and the work into it, give you a nice product at the end of the day. But if you're not willing to put that time and effort in, or if you don't think that your skill level is there to deal with those problems, then I would probably hold off for another option. So those are my thoughts on the kit. I've got to say, through this project, I learned a lot. I learned how to make molds, how to cast resin, how to cast resin parts with wires running through. I learned new techniques with new products like the epoxy sculpt. I'd never used that before. I made the switch from enamels over to acrylics on this project. And I've got to say, I used the Vallejo Air paints with this project, and I was impressed. I was impressed with the coverage. I was impressed with the color. I was impressed with the quality. And so I will definitely be using those on further projects. So all in all, I am very happy with the way it turned out for the most part. There are things that I would want to see done better the next time around. And there are some things I might continue to tweak and refine on this as a little bit of time comes to me. But all in all, a great project at the end of the day. So thank you for joining me on this mission debrief. If you enjoyed it, make sure that you hit that like button. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so yet, why not hit that subscribe button today? You'll make me very happy if you do. But this has been Andrew with Canadian Starships Mission Debrief. Have a great day, everyone.